He said it with a half smirk, like he was daring me, like he'd rehearsed the line and couldn't wait to throw it in my face. "You're not strong enough to leave," he said, folding his arms across that stretched-out thermal shirt like he was closing the argument for good. I didn't yell, didn't cry. I just blinked at him, let the silence stretch, then nodded once. That was the moment. Not the first insult, not the first time he stayed out all night. That moment, when he called me weak, that was the match to the fuse. My name is Renee Johnson. I'm 46 years old, and this is the story of how I learned that silence can be louder than revenge. We met in a Waffle House off Highway 31, outside Birmingham. I remember the smell of burnt coffee, bacon grease, and something sweet from the jukebox corner, a mix of syrup and cigarette smoke that clung to everything. It was past midnight. My scrubs smelled like disinfectant and exhaustion. I'd just clocked out from a double at the hospital, feet aching, mind foggy. He came in with 2 other guys from a job site, loud, joking, that kind of country confidence that fills a room before the door even closes. His laugh was deep, familiar somehow. He slid into the booth across from me after the others left, said he didn't want to eat alone. He smelled like copper, motor oil, and bad decisions, but his voice had honey in it, the kind of low southern drawl that could make you forget to guard your heart. "Name's Darius," he said, leaning back like he had all the time in the world. "I fix what's broke. Heating, cooling, sometimes hearts." I rolled my eyes, but I smiled. I was tired, but something about him, his confidence, his hunger, felt electric. He told me he wanted to build something real, said he needed someone who could match his ambition, and I believed him. First few years, it was the both of us grinding. Long days, longer nights. We shared a Boost Mobile plan and a single dream. We cooked ramen on a hot plate in his studio apartment and laughed when the power flickered. We printed business cards at the public library, black and yellow pixelated Crown logo. He'd hand them out at gas stations. I'd tape them to church bulletin boards. I came up with the name, Comfort King Heating and Air. He grinned when he heard it. "That sounds fancy, baby," he said, proud like I'd handed him gold. I ran the phones, booked the jobs, filed the receipts, typed up invoices on a busted Dell with a sticky space bar. He'd come home covered in dust and fiberglass, and I'd have sweet tea waiting. We got married in year 3. Courthouse wedding, no fuss. I wore a knee-length white dress from Sears, $49.99 on clearance. Flats, not heels. I had to work that night. My bouquet came half off from Piggly Wiggly. His cousin Jerome filmed it on his Android and shouted, "Y'all cute," when the judge said we could kiss. It wasn't fancy, but it was ours. By year 6, business was humming. The phone rang so much I had to set up voicemail hours. We moved into a 2-bedroom in Irondale with a backyard big enough for a grill, a garden, and one of those cheap patio sets I found at Big Lots. He got a second truck, hired a tech, then another. I handled the admin, QuickBooks, payroll, tax deadlines, vendor calls. I built the website myself one Saturday using a YouTube tutorial and a teenage helper from church. But every time we went to the hardware store or the bank, folks only looked at him. "Mr. Johnson, you're doing great. Sir, you've built quite an operation." He soaked it up like rain on dry dirt, nodding, smiling, letting them believe he did it alone. I didn't mind at first. I told myself we were a team. I wasn't in it for credit, I just wanted peace. Bills paid, stability, a home where no one slammed doors or slept angry. But somewhere around year 10, he changed. Not overnight. Slow, like rust spreading under paint. He started disappearing for late installs. His truck would be gone long after sunset. He'd walk in smelling not like work, but like expensive cologne. He used to call me baby, then Renee. Eventually, nothing. Just silence where sweetness used to live. One night I asked, soft, "You still happy?" He didn't look up from his phone. "You asking me that for?" I said, "'Cause I can't remember the last time we laughed together." He shrugged. "Maybe you should try being funny again." That night, I washed dishes with trembling hands, water running too hot, steam fogging the window. I told myself he was tired, overworked. I told myself to be patient. But deep down, something in me cracked. Then the phone habit started. He used to leave it on the counter, now he kept it glued to him. "Client call," he'd mumble, turning it face down. Sometimes I'd catch a glimpse of a text, just a heart emoji, or a name I didn't recognize. He opened a new business account for supplies, he said, but I saw the statements. Hotel charges, liquor store receipts, 2 weekends in Montgomery that didn't add up. Still, I didn't confront him. Not yet. I moved quiet, started saving passwords, backing up files. I copied every tax record, every invoice, every vendor receipt, even that first flyer with both our names printed crooked on it. I kept a flash drive tucked inside an old oatmeal can in the pantry, under the lid where nobody looked. The moment that truly broke me wasn't even the cheating. It was one Thursday evening around dinner. I'd made baked chicken, roasted squash, and honey cornbread, the meal that used to make him hum while eating. He walked in, looked at the table, and said, "Don't you got nothing else to do? I already ate." Then he picked up his keys, jingled them loud, and walked right back out. No explanation, no apology, just gone. I sat at that table for a long time. The air was thick with garlic and something hollow. I scraped his untouched plate into the trash, washed the dishes in silence, then sat in my car with the engine off. My hand stayed on the steering wheel like it was the only thing keeping me steady, and I heard Aunt Thelma's voice in my head, sharp, wise, Southern as cornbread. "A woman don't need to raise her voice," she'd always say. "She just need to know what room the door's in and what's in her name." That line hit different that night. I went inside, turned on my old laptop, and started researching. How to file an LLC in Alabama. How to trademark a business name. How to transfer ownership. Turns out Comfort King Heating and Air wasn't even properly registered. He'd been running it as a DBA, doing business as, but never secured the official LLC or trademark, meaning legally it was open, vulnerable. I didn't move fast, I moved right. I visited Miss Connie, the notary at church who'd seen it all, marriages, divorces, wills, deeds. She offered me a pound cake and said, "Baby, you don't need to fight loud, just make sure your paperwork clean." Then I talked to Deacon Russell, who used to work in the county clerk's office before he retired. He told me exactly which forms to fill out, which lines to sign, how to file quietly without raising red flags. I created Queen Comfort Services, LLC. Same address, same services, same coverage area. I even used the same fonts from our old logo, only now the crown sat higher, sharper. No king this time. I printed the business plan in a binder, labeled everything neat. When you've been underestimated long enough, order becomes a kind of power. But the real move came later. That Friday, he stumbled in around midnight, drunk, angry, smelling like peppermint gum and a stranger's perfume. The porch light caught the glassiness in his eyes. He dropped his keys on the counter so hard they bounced. I was sitting on the couch, laptop open, papers beside me. My heart was steady, my face calm. He squinted. "What you doing now, playing boss?" His laugh was sharp, mean. I closed the laptop. "Just checking on some things." He stepped closer, towering like he wanted a reaction. "You really think you could run this on your own? You're not strong enough to leave. You wouldn't last a week without me." The words landed like gravel in my chest. I didn't flinch, didn't even breathe hard. I just nodded once. Okay. That one word, calm, quiet, felt like the sound of a lock clicking shut. 2 days later, while he was doing installs in Talladega, I dressed in my navy blazer, tied my hair back, and drove to the Jefferson County Clerk's office. The morning was cool, sky pale gray. I parked under a dogwood tree and sat there a minute, just breathing. Inside my manila envelope, registration documents, proof of co-founding, notarized name transfer, printed evidence of every invoice I'd ever typed. The clerk's office. Smelled like paper and lemon cleaner. A fan hummed overhead. Ms. Gibson at the counter looked up and said, "You here to file a business?" "Yes, ma'am." My voice didn't shake. "Got your documents?" I slid the envelope across. "Everything you need." She stamped the papers one by one. The sound echoed in my chest like drum beats. Final, irreversible. When she said, "All set, Ms. Johnson," I smiled for the first time in months, a small smile, the kind that hides a revolution. Because it turns out, when you have the documentation, the receipts, and the quiet conviction of a woman who's done being dismissed, silence can be very, very loud. The week after I filed that envelope, the air in the house changed. Not because I said anything, I didn't, but because I stopped asking. I stopped asking when he'd be home. I stopped asking where the money went. I stopped asking what happened to us. That silence? It was heavy. You could feel it like humidity before a storm. He could too, but he didn't know what it meant. He thought I was sulking. Thought I'd come around like I always did. Thought I'd cook through it, fold through it, forgive through it. But that week, while he was watching football and texting God knows who, I was printing out my EIN number, designing uniforms, and checking my business listings on Google like my life depended on it. I wasn't trying to hurt him. I was trying to unvanish myself. I hadn't realized how small I'd become in that house, how my steps had gotten quiet, my tone careful, how I'd shrink every time he sighed like I was taking up too much oxygen. Every day felt like walking through invisible mud, thick and slow, like the life I built had somehow started closing in around me. That flash drive in the oatmeal can, that became my anchor, my lifeline. I'd pull it out some nights when he was asleep and just look at it. That little silver stick of proof I wasn't crazy. Proof I existed in the work. Proof I was there when the business was just an idea written on a Waffle House napkin. On it, I had everything. Invoices from when we ran the company out of our tiny apartment. Payroll logs in my handwriting. Photos of the first batch of shirts with the crooked logo we ironed on the kitchen counter. Even the old contracts from our first clients. With both our signatures. Right there in blue ink. Mine first. That Wednesday, I met with a friend of my cousin's, a small business lawyer named Latoria, who worked above a barber shop near Bessemer, the kind of place that smelled like hair grease and ambition. Her office was small, with a flickering lamp and an Alabama State diploma hanging crooked on the wall. She flipped through my papers, lips pursed, eyes narrowing like she was scanning a secret. Then she looked up. "You did all this?" I nodded, slow. She leaned back, tapping her pen. "You got this," she said. "Legally, emotionally, on all of it. You got this." I didn't realize how much I needed to hear that until I did. I'd already registered Queen Comfort Services, LLC, but with her help, I went further. We filed a name transfer claim on Comfort King Heating and Air. She showed me the paperwork for what's called a quiet claim. Legal, notarized, done by mail, certified by the state, clean, quiet, invisible until it wasn't, and I sent it. Meanwhile, at home, he was getting sloppy. Started coming in later, smelling like a cologne I didn't recognize, sharp and musky, too expensive for a man who claimed he was tight on cash. His truck console filled with fast food wrappers from restaurants I'd never seen him eat at. Once, I found a boutique hotel receipt stuffed between old invoices. 2 nights in Montgomery, champagne service, room for 2. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. When I asked, calm, "You go to Montgomery for work?" He smirked. "You really digging through my stuff now? That's cute." Then he laughed, not the kind that invites you in, but the kind that kicks you out of your own dignity. So I said nothing. Just walked outside, sat on the porch swing, and listened to the cicadas scream until the air went still. That's when I knew I couldn't just leave. I had to build. Leaving would have made me another story. Building would make me the author. I opened a new checking account under my business name, Queen Comfort Services, LLC. The banker, a young woman with braids and a smile too bright for the fluorescent lights, said, "Congratulations on your new business." I almost cried right there at the counter. It was the first time someone had said "your" and meant me. I ordered my own square reader, bought business cards with a simple gold crown, designed new flyers with a friend's daughter, Naya, who just graduated from Alabama State with a degree in marketing and too much passion to charge me full price. We sat in her dorm room-style office surrounded by ring lights and notebooks. "You want bold colors or subtle?" she asked. "Neither," I said. "I want respect." She smiled. "Then we'll make it look like money." And she did. I even bought a new work phone, same area code, different number, and linked it to my new Google business page. I watched the listing go live that night, my crown logo glowing on the screen like quiet rebellion. Then I did the boldest thing I'd done in years. I picked up the phone and called the top 5 property management companies in the area. My voice didn't shake once. I told them I was with a new HVAC service. Fast, reliable, clean installations, woman-owned, veteran-level precision. Most were polite but skeptical. One man said, "Well, ma'am, we usually deal with Comfort King." And I said, evenly, "We used to be affiliated. Not anymore." He paused, then said, "Send me your info." 3 called me back. 1 gave me 15 properties to service that same month. I took the deposit, a clean $4,200, and hired 2 women from church, Deja and Rochelle. Deja had lost her hospital job during cutbacks. Rochelle had a nephew getting his HVAC license. They were smart, fast learners, and most importantly, loyal. Rochelle's nephew, Malik, joined us as our first tech. Deja's cousin, Tony, was certified and had just been laid off. I gave them both a trial run, same-day pay, no nonsense. They called me Miss Renee, but I told them, "Just Renee, we're building this together." We ran dispatch from Rochelle's kitchen that first week, laptops open, coffee brewing, kids' cartoons playing in the background. It was chaotic and perfect. A few days later, I rented a shared workspace in Homewood, my own desk, my own key, my name on the glass panel by the door. No more running a business from a couch that smelled like tension. I sat there the first morning, hands flat on the desk, breathing in the smell of new beginnings, paper, coffee, and purpose. The power started shifting quietly. I didn't announce it. I just lived it. Then, about 6 weeks into my soft launch, he came home mad. He slammed the front door, threw his cap on the counter. "Man, I lost a big client today," he said, pacing. "They went with some queen-looking company, said she sounded more professional." He frowned, called the number. Some woman answered. Too polished to be real. I almost smiled. Almost. I stirred my tea instead. "That's so?" "Yeah," he said. "She ain't gonna last long. Folks around here like dealing with real people." I wanted to say, "You're right, they do." But I stayed quiet. I was careful. Never used our shared contacts. Never touched his laptop, my phone, my files, my clients, all clean, separate, legit. But word spreads in small towns faster than fire in dry grass. My Google listing started ranking higher. The reviews poured in, on time and polite. Finally, a company that listens. Ask for Renee. She gets things done. And that's when I realized people remembered me, not him. Me. The voice who scheduled their repairs, the one who called to check on the unit after a storm, the one who remembered their dog's name and their child's asthma. He never saw it that way. But they did. The house got colder by the day. He'd grunt a hello, maybe a "you cooked?" if he was feeling civil. I started sleeping in the guest room, partly for peace, partly because the air in our bedroom had turned poisonous. The distance between us wasn't just emotional anymore. It was financial, and he could feel it. One morning, he leaned in the kitchen doorway, arms crossed. "You still working part-time at the hospital?" I wiped my hands. "Not anymore." He raised an eyebrow. "You ain't working for me either." I nodded once. "Exactly." He stared like he wanted to say more, but the silence between us did all the talking. A week later, I found him pacing in the backyard, phone pressed tight to his ear, yelling. The porch light cast long shadows across the lawn. "Nah, man, it's confusion. Some company using my name, Comfort something." He paused, listening, his shoulders tensing. "No, it ain't her. My wife don't know nothing about this side of business." I almost laughed from the window. Almost. Turns out that confusion was working exactly how it was supposed to. When folks Googled Comfort King Heating, both our listings showed up. Same name, same service area. But mine had the crown, the cleaner logo, the updated site, the better reviews. He had sweat. I had structure. I didn't just leave him. I was quietly replacing him. Legally, line by line, signature by signature. Then came the real shift. That Monday morning, my inbox pinged. Subject line: "Your business name claim has been approved and certified." I froze. Read it again. It meant Comfort King Heating and Air. The name, the legacy, the brand was now officially registered to me. He never filed it. I did. I printed the certificate on heavy paper, framed it in gold, and set it right on my new desk. Sat back, let the morning light hit it, and smiled. It didn't feel like victory. It felt like peace. I didn't need to shout, didn't need to post, didn't even need to tell him. Because when silence is rooted in power, it speaks for itself. The day I picked up the keys to my first commercial lease, I didn't cry. I didn't call anybody. I sat in the front seat of my car outside that old auto garage off Highway 11, engine off, radio low, just listening to the quiet hum of traffic passing by. My fingers ran over the cool edge of the key, the tiny brass teeth catching the sunlight. I looked at it like it was something sacred, something earned. Then I turned it in the lock. The metal door creaked open slow, groaning like it hadn't been moved in years. The sound echoed across the concrete lot, long, low, and alive. And there it was. Queen Comfort Services, LLC, Suite B. It smelled like grease, dust, and possibility. Inside, the air was dry and heavy with the ghosts of old engines. Cracked cement floors stretched across the space like gray rivers. There was one dented file cabinet sitting crooked in the corner, a coffee maker from 1996 with a cracked pot, and a stack of magazines still talking about Obama's first term like it was breaking news. But it was mine. Every scuff, every cobweb, every inch of that forgotten room belonged to me now, and I knew what to do with it. I called Rochelle and Deja that afternoon, excitement trembling under my calm voice. "Y'all free this weekend?" Rochelle's voice shot through the speaker. "Why? You found something?" "I did," I said. "We moving in." "Moving in?" Deja gasped. "You mean like an office?" "Yep," I said, smiling into the phone. "Headquarters. Queen Comfort Suite B." The phone went silent for a beat. Then Rochelle screamed. Loud, long, like Sunday service. Deja cried. "Girl, look what God do when you quiet." We spent the next 2 weekends scrubbing and painting that space until our arms ached. The smell of bleach and almond paint filled the air. We opened all the doors, played old-school Mary J. and Frankie Beverly through Deja's Bluetooth speaker, and turned work into worship. We painted the walls a soft almond color. Warm and calm, the color of confidence. We laid down rugs from big lots that looked more expensive than they were. Rochelle found 2 fake potted palms on Facebook Marketplace. Deja insisted on a candy jar for the front desk. We used a folding table as our front desk and dragged in an old church pew for the waiting bench. Sanded, polished, wiped down with lavender oil until it gleamed. It creaked when you sat on it, like it was praying with you. On our first official morning, I lit a lemon verbena candle. Fresh, strong, clean. The scent filled the room like a declaration. Then I stood in the doorway and whispered to no one, "Let's work." My ex still didn't know. He had no idea that every time he lost a client, I gained one. That while he was blaming bad luck or lazy texts, his customers were quietly finding me. It wasn't revenge. I wasn't sabotaging anything. I didn't need to. I just showed up differently, faster service, no attitude, no upcharges, clean uniforms, on-time texts, follow-up calls, respect. That was all. But in business, especially in Birmingham, that's everything. Word of mouth here travels faster than gospel in a prayer circle. Once the church secretary tells it, everybody knows by morning service. By month 4, our call board was full. So full that Rochelle came in one morning, fanning herself. "Renee, we gon' need more people. I can't keep up." She wasn't wrong. That's when Chantel showed up. Chantel, a certified HVAC tech and single mom of 2, walked in wearing steel-toe boots, blue eyeliner, and a look that said she'd seen worse than busted compressors. She shook my hand and said, "I don't need nobody to hold my ladder." Hired on the spot. Customers loved her. She fixed their ACs, blessed their homes with prayer cards, and left behind a little trail of peppermint gum wrappers and peace. People started asking for her by name. Meanwhile, over at his company, things were falling apart. He hired his cousin, the one everybody warned him about, who ended up stealing tools from the truck, fired one tech for drinking on the job, missed a big contract at Jefferson Villa's senior complex, and when the client called to complain, they somehow landed on my line instead. One morning, Deja poked her head out of the office, phone in hand. "You need to hear this." She pressed play on a voicemail. "Hi, we were looking for Comfort King Heating, but this number brought us here. Y'all came highly recommended. Can we still book with you?" I leaned back in my chair, smiled without showing teeth. I'd filed a phone redirect months ago, all legal, all tidy. Any call to the old Comfort King line that went unanswered for 3 rings would forward straight to Queen Comfort. That's what happens when you don't lock your systems down. That same week, an invitation arrived in my inbox. Birmingham Small Business Networking Brunch, Women in Trades panel. It might sound small, but for a Black woman running a service business in Alabama, that's a seat at a table folks don't even admit exists. They asked me to speak. I spent all Saturday getting ready, had my hair flat ironed at Gloria's on 4th. She dusted the ends and said, "You glowing girl. What's the secret?" I smiled. "Peace." Gloria grinned. "Expensive, huh?" "Worth every penny." That Sunday, I wore my best navy wrap dress, the one that made me feel both powerful and soft. The air in that hotel ballroom smelled like coffee and ambition. When they called my name, I walked to the podium slow and steady. My voice didn't shake. I talked about women in trades, about grace under pressure, about rebuilding from silence. Didn't mention his name, didn't need to. But I saw some folks shift in their seats when I said, "Sometimes the thing that breaks you is the same thing that teaches you how to build." They clapped slow at first, then harder, like they understood. Later that week, I got an email that made my throat close up. From Birmingham Business Journal. Subject, Nomination for Woman-Owned Business of the Year. I read it twice, then a third time. Me? Renee Johnson? The woman who used to sit on the edge of a bed, waiting for headlights to pull in the driveway? I closed the laptop and let myself breathe. Didn't tell Rochelle or Deja right away. I needed the silence first. Back home, yes, I was still living there, things were brittle. The air between us had turned sharp, like walking through glass. He was gone more than he was home. 3 nights out, sometimes 4. When he did show up, he smelled like outside. Smoke, beer, and bad choices. Then one afternoon, he came home early. I was in the driveway loading boxes into the back of my new company van. Sun beating down. The Queen Comfort logo printed crisp on my shirt and the van doors. Gold crown, white letters. He stopped mid-step, squinted. "What's this?" "Work," I said simply, sliding another box in. He stared at the logo, jaw tightening. "That's my font." I looked at him, dead calm. "Not anymore." He walked closer. "That's my company." "No," I said. "It was a name. Now it's mine." For a moment, he just blinked, like his brain couldn't process the sentence. Then he laughed once. Short, humorless. "You playing, right?" I reached into my bag, pulled out a folder, and handed him the notarized certificate. The official seal glinted in the sunlight, my name printed in black, bold, permanent. He read it, his mouth parting slightly. Then he looked up at me like I'd just rewritten the laws of gravity. "You stole my business?" "No," I said. My voice stayed low even. "I took back what I built. You just forgot I helped." He blinked. Twice. The air between us pulsed, thick with everything unsaid. His eyes darted to the van again, the name, the crown, the quiet proof that I wasn't bluffing. He wanted to yell. I could see it building in him, the storm, the pride, the disbelief. But instead, he laughed. That bitter, broken kind of laugh people make when the world stops revolving around them. "Man, you really think you can run this without me?" he said. I didn't answer. Didn't need to. I closed the van door slow. The metal clicked shut like punctuation. Then I got behind the wheel, started the engine, and pulled out of the driveway. The gravel crunched under the tires, loud and final. He stood there watching, hands on his hips, mouth half open. The sun hit the logo on the van just right as I turned onto the main road. The crown gleamed gold against the white paint. For the first time in years, I wasn't driving away in anger. I was driving toward myself. He didn't show up again until the county fair. That year, they'd moved the HVAC vendor booths closer to the front of the exhibition grounds, right between the funnel cake stand and the kids' bounce house. You could hear the sizzle of frying batter and the high-pitched laughter of children blending with country music. From a speaker, someone had duct taped to a light post. The air smelled like sugar, diesel, and hot metal. Our setup was simple but proud. A blue pop-up tent, a Queen Comfort Services banner, and gold lettering that caught the sunlight just right. A folding table stacked with business cards, branded keychains, and a clipboard for service discounts. We had a standing fan running off a generator, blowing warm air across our faces. But it felt good, like proof we were part of the action. I wore my company polo jeans and a light denim jacket. Nothing fancy, just solid, present. I'd learned long ago that quiet professionalism outlasts flash every time. We'd been busy since morning. Older couples stopped by asking about duct cleaning, maintenance plans, or energy-efficient upgrades for the Alabama heat. Chantel was over by the display model chatting up a retired firefighter about Freon systems. Rochelle was demonstrating our online booking app to a woman balancing a turkey leg in one hand and a sleepy baby on her hip. Deja was crouched under the table, restocking brochures and wiping away condensation from a spilled water bottle. It felt good, real, normal, like progress had a heartbeat. Then I saw him. He walked up slow like a man strolling through memories. Same dusty work boots, same swagger he used to have when business was booming, but now it looked heavier, worn. On his arm was that same woman I'd seen on the boutique hotel receipts, younger, with long lashes, tight jeans, and too much perfume for a day fare. Her smile looked borrowed, and her eyes kept drifting anywhere but toward him. He stopped in front of our booth and gave me that old smug look, the one he used when he thought he still had power over me. "Well, I'll be damned," he said, loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. "This what you been up to, Renee?" I didn't flinch. I didn't look up right away either, just kept arranging the pens in the little acrylic holder, letting the silence stretch long enough for him to feel it. When I finally looked at him, I said evenly, "Hey there, how's business?" He let out a short, forced laugh. Struggling a bit, truth be told. Clients acting funny, phones going quiet. Whole thing feels off. He stepped closer, his voice dropping low. "You really trying to run this whole thing without me?" I didn't answer. I didn't need to. My stillness was enough. He reached for one of our flyers, holding it up like he was inspecting it for mistakes. Then he saw it. The logo, the gold crown, and underneath it, clear as day, Queen Comfort Services, formerly Comfort King Heating and Air. His expression froze. That little smirk fell right off his face. "You can't use that name," he said. "I can," I replied, calm as ever. He took a half step forward. "No, you can't. That's mine." I reached under the table, pulled out a laminated copy of my business certificate, and handed it to him. He snatched it from my hand, eyes scanning every line, his brow tightening with each word. "You filed for the name?" "6 months ago. Comfort King is mine, Renee." "No." I said it soft, but it landed sharp. It never was. I came up with it. I filed for it. And now it's mine. On paper, on record, and on every Google listing in this county. His girlfriend looked between us, frowning. "Wait, what's going on?" He waved her off without looking at her. "Man, this some snake stuff." I didn't blink. "No," I said. "This is structure. You were sloppy." "I wasn't." He balled the certificate in his hand like he wanted to throw it. For a second, I thought he might, but he didn't. He just stood there, shoulders stiff, breathing hard through his nose. "People gonna hear about this," he said finally. I shrugged. "Let 'em. Make sure you tell 'em I offer same-day service, clean installs, and warranties on all labor." The crowd noise swelled around us. Kids laughing, vendors shouting prices, a gospel choir warming up on the stage by the fairground fence. Life didn't pause for his ego. He stared at me so long I thought he might cry, but he didn't. He dropped the balled-up paper on the grass, turned without a word, and walked away. The girl followed, her heels sinking into the soft ground, glancing back at me, once before disappearing into the crowd. Deja came over a few seconds later, eyes wide. "You good?" I took a slow breath. "I'm good." "Whew," she fanned herself with a brochure. "Girl, you stayed calm." "I've been calm," I said. "That's the difference." We didn't talk about it again. We didn't need to. The rest of the fair went smooth. We raffled off a free service inspection, signed 3 new commercial clients, and scheduled 8 residential consultations before sundown. Rochelle packed up the tent while Chantel handed out the last of the keychains. We were exhausted, sticky from the heat, but proud. That night, driving home with the windows cracked, I felt something shift inside me. Not joy exactly, not even triumph, just peace. That quiet, heavy kind of peace that comes when the past finally stops reaching for you. But the universe wasn't done yet. A few days later, I found a letter in my mailbox. Thick envelope, embossed seal. From Jefferson County Chamber of Commerce. Subject nominee, Small Businesswoman of the Year. For a long minute, I just stood there at the kitchen counter staring at it. The late afternoon light cutting across the paper, my name in print, not attached to his, mine alone. It came with a gold-trimmed invitation, their annual banquet at the Sheraton Ballroom downtown. Formal dress, choice of chicken or salmon, 2 drink tickets. I set it down on the table and just smiled. Small, quiet, the kind that comes from deep, earned pride. When the night came, I dressed with care. A burgundy sheath dress that hugged in the right places, pearls my mother left me, and soft peach nails. My hair swept into a side swoop bun. Simple, elegant, unbothered. Chantel picked me up in her mama's Chrysler. She was wearing black slacks and gold hoops, grinning like she was the one getting honored. "We gon' make 'em remember your name tonight," she said. The ballroom was bright and cold with the smell of perfume, candle wax, and ambition, round tables draped in white, waiters gliding between guests, the sound of silverware against plates and polite laughter floating under the chandeliers. It was a room full of developers, insurance agents, realtors, shop owners, and TV anchors, money and polish. I wasn't sure where I fit, until I realized I didn't have to. I didn't come to belong. I came to stand. When they started the awards segment, I kept my face neutral, clapping for the others, sipping my water. I didn't think I'd win. Didn't even let myself hope. Then I heard my name. Renee Johnson, founder of Queen Comfort Services, for her outstanding contribution to women in trades and small business excellence. Everything slowed for a second. The music, the chatter, even my heartbeat. Chantel's hands clapped loud next to me. Rochelle whooped from the next table, and Deja shouted, "That's my boss!" like she was at a revival. I stood, smoothed my dress, and walked to the stage. Each step felt like a page turning. The microphone was hot under the lights, but my voice came steady. "I used to think silence was weakness," I said, looking out over that glittering crowd. "But now I know. Silence is where you hear yourself. And when you hear yourself, you can't be silenced again." For a moment, the room was still. Then the applause came. Chantel hollered. Rochelle fanned herself like she was in church. Deja had tears in her eyes. And me, I just breathed. Afterward, people came up, smiling, shaking my hand. "How'd you get started? Did you have a mentor? Was it hard breaking into a male-dominated field?" And I told them the truth, the kind that didn't need dressing up. "I had to break through a man to get here," I said, "but I didn't break down." Their eyes softened. A few nodded like they understood more than they could say. Later that night, when the ballroom emptied and the music faded, I stood outside under the warm glow of the streetlights, holding that glass award in both hands. The city buzzed around me, horns, laughter, wind carrying faint gospel music from a passing car. For the first time in a long time, I felt whole. Not rebuilt, not healed, whole. And I whispered to myself, barely audible, "This right here. This is mine." The following Thanksgiving, the house smelled like sage, sweet potatoes, and quiet. The kind of quiet that fills every corner. Not empty, not lonely, just settled. I had the oven going since 7 a.m., the good kind of early, the kind where the world feels soft, and you don't mind peeling yams while the first sunlight hits the frost outside, steam curled up from the sink, and the glass on the kitchen window fogged over while the gospel station out of Tuscaloosa hummed low in the background. Mahalia Jackson was singing about grace. And for once, I didn't feel like I had to earn it. It had been a full year since I took the name. 9 months since the county fair, 4 months since that award at the Sheraton Ballroom, and just over 6 weeks since I'd signed the divorce papers. No fight, no yelling, no courtroom theatrics. Just 2 signatures and a silence that felt cleaner than anything we'd shared in years. He didn't contest a thing. I kept the house. Not because I needed to, but because it was paid for, and because I wanted to prove something to myself, that I could live in peace inside the same walls where I once disappeared. I gutted the energy out of that place and rebuilt it piece by piece. Painted the bedroom a warm mocha that caught the light like honey. Hung soft curtains from Target that moved gently when the air vents clicked on. Found a burnt orange couch from Wayfair that made the living room feel like fall. Drove all the way to Montgomery for a rug I didn't need but couldn't stop thinking about. Cream with golden fringe on the edge. Bought it anyway. Tossed the old mattress. Got a new one that hugged me like a Sunday nap after church and collard greens. Every time I stepped into my home now, it felt like an inhale. Deep, grounded, and mine. The business was thriving. 4 full-time techs on payroll now with benefits and branded jackets. Chantel had her own van, wrapped in our crown logo, shining gold in the Alabama sun. Deja ran scheduling full-time, headset on, voice smooth and steady as she worked the calls. We were booked solid through the end of January. Rochelle handled client relations, printing flyers for our Warm Hearts, Warm Homes winter promo, a heater giveaway for senior customers who couldn't afford repairs. It was working. It was real. I'd started mentoring women, too, those who wanted to learn HVAC or start their own trade-based businesses. Some of them came from hair salons, others from nursing or factory work, trying to find a path where they could build something that didn't depend on anyone's permission. I taught a workshop at Lawson State once a month. Start smart, stay silent, build loud. We'd laugh at the title, but the lesson stuck. I'd tell them, don't wait for somebody to hand you peace. Learn the paperwork, learn the system, then move in silence until your name's on the door. That morning, the kitchen felt like church. I set the table with a brown and gold cloth from Aunt Netta's old trunk, the one she used every holiday before her hands got too tired to cook. Used real napkins, not paper. Polished the mismatched silverware I'd collected over the years, some from yard sales, some from my mama's hope chest, all with history. I cooked like I was feeding my future. Cornbread dressing with baked-in chicken thighs that browned just right at the edges. Collard greens with turkey necks, simmering slow in a heavy pot, macaroni with 4 cheeses and a crust so crisp it cracked when you scooped it, candied yams so sweet they made your eyes close on the first bite, a glazed ham with pineapple rings glistening under brown sugar, and 1 lemon chess pie. My grandmother's recipe from 6th Street, where summer nights used to smell like porch wood and laughter. I didn't invite him. Didn't need to. But I did invite my team. Chantel brought her little girl, who insisted on helping stir the punch. Rochelle came with her husband, who sat down at the table like he'd been coming there his whole life. Deja brought her mama, a woman with a gentle voice and eyes that had seen everything. She took one look around my home and said, "You got a beautiful spirit, baby. Don't let the world make you forget." I smiled. I won't. We ate until our laughter got soft and our plates looked like art projects of crumbs and sauce. Then we sat around that table swapping stories about jobs gone wrong, clients who tried to flirt for discounts, and the first time each of us realized we were capable of more than survival. Some stories were funny. Some carried a quiet ache, but all of it was honest. All of it was free. Later, when the house emptied out and the sun had dipped low, I stood in the quiet, the kind of quiet that doesn't need permission to exist. The dishwasher hummed. The candle on the counter flickered low, and I started cleaning. Slow, deliberate, plate by plate. The way you clean when you're not rushing anywhere. That's when I saw it. A white envelope tucked neatly under my doormat. No stamp. Just my name written in thick, familiar handwriting. I froze for a second, hand hovering over it. Then I picked it up, feeling the weight of old years in something so light. Inside was a single sheet of paper, handwritten, all caps, the same scrawl I'd seen 1,000 times on old receipts and grocery lists. "I finally see what you did, and I know now why you had to. Guess you were strong enough to leave. D." I read it twice, slowly. No apology. No anger, no request to come back, just acknowledgement, and that was enough. I folded the note once and slipped it into the back of my old ledger, the one from our earliest business days. Pages still smelled faintly of ink and dust. My handwriting filled those lines, customer names, supply costs, delivery notes, all from a time when I was still learning how much I was worth. It felt right, putting it there. Not as closure, but as record. I didn't need to forgive him. I already had. In the silence, in the rebuilding, in the fact that his words no longer lived rent-free in my head. That night, the air turned cool. I lit a cinnamon candle on the coffee table, pulled a throw blanket around me, and sat in my golden-toned living room sipping ginger tea. The heater clicked softly behind me. One of ours. Installed by my own team, scheduled through a system I built, paid for with money I earned, under a name I owned. I looked around and realized everything in that room had been chosen by me, not inherited, not compromised, not borrowed, chosen. And that's what freedom really was. I leaned back on the couch, closed my eyes, and let the warmth settle in my bones. The quiet didn't scare me anymore. It sang to me, low, steady, true. He said I wasn't strong enough to leave. He was wrong. I didn't just leave. I rebuilt. I re-registered. I reclaimed. And I remembered who I was. Not loud, not petty, not broken. Just focused, still, and free. If this story struck a chord, hit like, subscribe, and tell me what you think in the comments.